Import Wizard Demonstration. There is also a handout that goes along with this demonstration that has been posted on Blackboard. The Import Wizard utility is useful for bringing an Excel spreadsheet into SAS. The handout provides helpful hints on how to best set up your spreadsheet when you are entering your own data, and also goes through the step-by-step process of using the Import Wizard utility. So here is an Excel spreadsheet called BWT, which stands for birth weight, that I want to bring into SAS, and I want to use the Import Wizard utility to do this. This data set has 189 observations and 11 variables. Each observation or patient appears on a row, and the 11 variables are our column headings. So for example, in our first column we have ID code, we have a variable named low weight for a low birth weight infant. We have in column C mom age, which is the age of the mother. And so as we keep going down the columns, we have the different variables that are in our data set. When I want to bring a spreadsheet into SAS using the Import Wizard utility, I have the best luck saving the spreadsheet as an Excel 97-2003 workbook to bring it into SAS. Now that we are in SAS, we want to import the Excel spreadsheet BWT using the Import Wizard utility. So to do this, we're going to go to File, Import Data, and notice that the data source is a Microsoft Excel workbook, so we can click on Next. And then we want to find the location where I saved the spreadsheet. So we select the spreadsheet that I want to import and click Open, and then OK. And the table that I want to import was titled BWT. SAS can only import one sheet of an Excel spreadsheet at a time, and the sheet that I want to import was labeled BWT. So then we click on Next, and then we need to give the birth weight spreadsheet a name that's going to be the SAS data set that SAS creates. And so we're going to call this data set birth weight. So SAS is going to create a temporary SAS data set called birth weight. At this point, you have two choices for what to do. If you click on Finish, the data set will be saved and you can work on it during this session that SAS is open. If you click on Next, you will go to another dialog box which will give you a chance to save the SAS commands that were used to import the data, and those commands could be used at a later time. So you don't have to go through the Import Wizard at a different time. You actually have the code that SAS generated to bring this data into SAS and create the temporary data set birth weight. So I'm going to click on Next. I'm going to give the code that SAS generates a name so that we can create a SAS program from this. So I'm going to call it birth weight, and I want to save it in a location, and we're giving it the name birth weight, and so we're going to save it. And so we've saved these program statements, this code that SAS generates, into a file called birthweight.sas, which is a SAS program. And now I'm going to go ahead and click Finish, and then we're going to open up the program that I just saved and see what it looks like. So here is the program called birth weight, and this was code that was automatically generated by SAS. If you notice, this code may look familiar because it's similar to the proc import that we looked at in the reading demonstration part 1, which was where we looked at the proc import procedure. So here we see that SAS has created a temporary data set called birth weight, and that it came from this file, and this was the location of it. So let's say we want to find out, well, what's in the file. We're going to look at a procedure called proc contents, data equals birth weight, run. So let's run all of this code and see what we find out. So proc contents tells us that this data set has 189 observations, 11 variables, and the variables are given in alphabetical order. So proc contents is used to tell us about the descriptor portion of a SAS dataset. Let's say we wanted to see the variables in the actual order that they appeared in the Excel spreadsheet. To do that, we would add an option called var num. Proc contents data equals birth weight var num. Run. So if we ran just this, we now see the same proc contents, but they're displayed in the creation order, or in the order that the columns were in the Excel spreadsheet. Now let's say we wanted to do some more things with this data set. One thing we can do is we can create another data set from this data set. So let's say I wanted to create a data set called low birth weight. Data low birth weight. I'm going to use a set statement, and basically what the set statement is doing, it is copying this data set called birth weight into a new data set called low birth weight. And this is helpful if, let's say, we wanted to create some new variables or regroup variables or add some formats. So basically what I've done here is I have created a new temporary data set called low birth weight. I've copied the data set birth weight, the SAS data set birth weight, into this new temporary SAS data set called low birth weight. Now, let's say I want to look at a frequency of race. Proc freq, that was one of the variables in this data set. Tables, race. And I'm going to tell SAS that we are going to read it from data equals low birth weight. So basically what I've done is I've taken the SAS data set birth weight that was generated from the import wizard utility and copied it into a new data set called low birth weight, and then done a frequency of race. So let's run this little bit of code here. And here is our frequency of race. And let's take a look at the log, and we see that for this frequency, there were 189 observations read from the data set work.low birth weight. And if we scroll up, we see that first of all, there were 189 observations read from the data set work.birth weight. That was our original data set that the proc import created, and it copied it into this new data set called low birth weight using the set statement. Now we can save this entire program. So let's save it. And then if we wanted at some other time, we could go back and open up this program called birth weight, and all of this code would be there, and we could go back and run all of this code again. So just pretend that we had closed SAS, opened up SAS again, opened up the file birth weight. We would see all of this code, and we could just run the code again. So you wouldn't have to go through the import wizard utility again. You would have the code already generated for you. So here we are running the code again, and we don't have to go through the import wizard utility. The import wizard utility is a very efficient way to bring in Excel spreadsheets, but it can only be used with PC SAS. So if you were working with SAS on demand, a web-based SAS program, you wouldn't be able to use the import wizard utility.